I'm Rachel Dominguez-Benner. I go by Rachel DB. I design and screen print fabric yardage and transform it into garments and useful goods. It was when I had sewn clothes with my fabric that I had printed with a design that I had illustrated that came out of my imagination that I realized the benefit of learning to mend. It came from a love for my creation, to take care of it, and if unable to prevent damage, because I don't do well with precious objects. I am interested in the place where utility intersects with beauty and where dalliance crosses diligence. If I can't prevent damage, then I must learn to repair. And I had the privilege and joy of learning at one of my favorite places, Penland School of Craft. My experience at Penland really transformed the idea of mending from a chore of domestic life maintenance to a creative act. There are so many wonderful choices that you can make in choosing color and stitches and the materials, and really putting care and time into the repair that can kind of transform the object. And that's one of the things I love about it. It allows for casual precision, and the approachability of something done with your hands, as a reminder that joy is found in layers of existence. There can be joy in what some people would consider damage, and yet mending turns the idea of damage into creative possibility. And that's what really attracts me to mending. So woven darning mending is one of those deceptively simple things that on the surface is just filling in a hole. And yet if you dig into it, there is so much about relationship with self and with others, depending on what you're mending. And it's just a lovely place for curiosity. Penland is a magical place in the hills of North Carolina near Asheville. And it's where in 2017 I learned how to screen print fabric yardage, meaning creating a pattern that can fit into itself, and then you print fabric that you can turn into stuff. And I had been sewing for years before that, but it was really pivotal in my creative journey to have that agency of what would go on the surface that would then turn into other items. In 2018, I got to return to Penland as studio assistant for Tim Eads, who had taught that first class for 8 weeks in a fall intensive workshop. And there I got to screen print more yardage and also be a resource to other students in the shared studio. And it really has influenced how much I look for community related to my creative practice now. I haven't cracked the challenge of bringing yardage fabric printing back with me to Dayton. It takes facilities, it takes space and equipment that costs real money and focused attention, and it's a lot for one person to take on. I have been concentrating my time and efforts on collaborative and cooperative projects, in part because one of my dreams for Dayton is to have a cooperative screen printing studio, a shared studio space where you can come and burn screen printing screens and make t-shirts or posters or yardage, and everyone shares the responsibility of the work and the cost, and shares the benefit of having that kind of resource. So that's part of what I'm working toward. When I had an opportunity to go to Penland to learn mending, I it opened up a whole different world. Mending is something that is very portable. The most basic equipment really is a needle and thread or yarn, depending on the material that you're mending. I'm I'm not ready to take on teaching mending. Um, I want to keep it a little bit longer for myself because of the years that I spent as a production sewist with my micro manufacturing business. I have an intentional relationship with anything I choose to spend time using my hands on. I know that our bodies are not invincible, and I am aware that repetitive stress is something to keep in mind when I don't know necessarily about the future state of my ability to access healthcare or, you know, life things like that. So I don't take on commissions. I've done a few pieces for friends as a gift or as trade, which is great. I love trading. I have a friend who's a goat farmer, and I received a package with her fine purple merino mock neck sweater that had damage, and goat soap and other products. It was the sweater smelled so delicious. It was a perfect trade because we were giving each other gifts, but it wasn't transactional the way it would be if I had to put a price on my time towards mending for a client. That's a road I've been down with sewing, and I've been working on reclaiming my creative practice for myself and my chosen communities. Part of the studio list for the mending class included items, clothing, garments, bed sheets, whatever you had that had damage and needed repair. And we were encouraged to bring denim, and I have no denim with holes in it. So on the road trip down, my spouse Ian and I stopped to visit friends in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I was telling them about this, that I had no denim. And my friend Rosemary she had a favorite shirt that had ripped down the placket on the sleeve, and she said, if you need something to mend, you can take my shirt, and I also have a favorite pair of jeans that I can't wear anymore. And the beyond that, there was a gift in that offer because she made it with absolutely zero expectations of it being returned to her mended. It was solely an offering of opportunity, and that I could make all of the choices. I could do whatever I wanted with these garments, these loved objects from my friend. And that is one of those other layers that comes with mending items for other people. The time while you're stitching, it really gives you an opportunity to reflect on your relationship with that person, and just really focus attention on them. And it's pretty magical the the care that goes into mending a garment. And I think that the that reflection and that love and that thinking of that person while I'm doing the mend is being sewn into that garment with those stitches. And it makes me feel really good knowing that my friend can wear their favorite garment again, and I will be a small part of whatever future adventures uh, that that they get on together. And while I may not have had denim, I own plenty of wool sweaters that could use some attention, including one in particular. It was a gray sweater, a nice mid weight. It was pretty simple. The edges were just finished with kind of a sergered edge. And part of this story relates to how I have never been great at processing anger. I generally kind of just shove it down. And I, as with anyone that shoves their anger down, it explodes. But my anger always seemed to explode in like really quiet rage. For instance, I had this gray sweater and it had buttons, though I never wore it closed, and I don't remember what the circumstances of the day were or what caused my reaction, but in a moment of anger and very quiet rage, while I was wearing this sweater, I ripped out all of the buttons while I was wearing it. And this caused me shame because I had damaged a perfectly good garment that had done nothing to me but keep me warm. And I would remember that moment of anger, that explosion of how I couldn't control myself in that moment. And I thought of it every time that I wore the sweater. So it it was kind of a reminder of that shame. And that happened before I took the mending class, before I had any of this experience. So when I got back to Dayton and I remembered that gray sweater and the feelings and my newfound skill, my transformational skill, where damage becomes creative opportunity, I revisited that sweater and it's turned into something of a mending sampler for me. So it's all of the ripped out buttonholes have been filled, and since I wasn't going to replace the buttons, I never liked them anyways, I filled in the buttonholes on the other side. And then I noticed the elbow seems kind of bare. That's a great time to try that replicate stitch that keeps confusing me. And so in this way, this practice of mending, of attention, has also allowed me to process the shame of that anger. And it's powerful stuff. It's powerful stuff.